7th, 2022 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. How about Councilmember Cavallari?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, I got to turn my camera on. There we go.
There you are.
Naomi, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
Here.
Councilmember Bond.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Here.
Councilmember Steckler.
Here.
Councilmember Allison.
Here.
Councilmember Touquet.
Here.
Okay, we'll begin as always with audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council? That is quick, Barb. Anyone in the audience like to address the council? Okay, seeing none. Barb, you have the floor. Name and address in 3 minutes, please.
Barb Heidel, 1401 144th Place, Southeast Mill Creek. Thank you, Mayor. I wish to thank Jody, Scott, Matthew, and the Public Works crew for a wonderful job with the Memorial Day ceremony. It was very respectful, stirring, and sincere. Mayor Pro Tem had a very touching and heartfelt speech. As always, a display of boots, helmet, and rifle is a perfect symbol of those who fought for our freedom. The laying of the red carnations around the memorial area is an important part of showing our care, respect, and remembrance of our lost soldiers. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else like to address the council? Going once, twice, be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. That brings us to our presentations, and I think the first presentation is a proclamation I have to read on behalf of the council in honor of Pride Month. Whereas equality of opportunity and freedom from discrimination are among the basic, inalienable moral rights of every person, necessary for the development and exercise of our most vital capacities and preconditions of human flourishing. And whereas our nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes that every person has been created equal, that each has rights to their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of law. And whereas over the course of our nation's history, the sphere of its moral recognition has expanded to include many persons previously marginalized, disenfranchised, and subjugated, yet this recognition remains imperfect and this expansion incomplete. And whereas 2015's landmark Supreme Court decision guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states was a historic victory for LGBT Americans, ensuring dignity for same-sex couples and greater equality across state lines. Whereas lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer LGBTQ plus Pride Month is observed annually in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising and to recognize the impact that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals have had on history locally, nationally, and internationally. And whereas June 2022 marks the 52nd anniversary of annual LGBTQ Pride observances, now therefore I, Brian Holtzclaw, Mayor of the City of Mill Creek, on behalf of the entire City Council, to hereby proclaim June 2022 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. I need a drink of water. Okay, that brings us to item D, the Youth Advisory Board presentations. Martin and Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to say that every year the City of Mill Creek has a privilege and the opportunity to thank the wonderful students that contributed to the city's Youth Advisory Board. Every year they're elected a new group of students. This year they've supported the city in numerous programs and events, giving back to our communities. Marketing Coordinator Scott Harder will cover the background, a little bit of background on the program, how they contributed to our program in 2022, and recognize those individuals.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you, Mayor and council members. If I can get the slide deck up, Naomi. Okay, if you don't know, I'm sure you do, but the Youth Advisory Board is a group of high school students from various backgrounds living in the Mill Creek area who are committed to making a difference in their community. That's not just Jackson, that's many other high schools. So go to the next slide. It does consist of 40 members, not all in this picture. And 6 of them are officers. And the board meets twice a month and is overseen by the volunteer advisors, which is myself and Jody. During monthly member meetings, members are encouraged to participate in discussions and share ideas. Their mission is to strengthen relations between young adults and our community through creating new programs and encouraging opportunities for young adults to give back to the Mill Creek community. So some of the annual events where you see them most visibly that they help organize and manage include like the Mill Creek Festival, National Night Out, Trunk or Treat, the tree lighting extravaganza, which was actually several events, thousands and thousands of eggs, Run with Heart, and dozens of other events that support our community and organizations like the Mill Creek Food Bank, Friends of North Creek, senior programs, blood drives, mentorships, and more. So with that, we go to the next slide. We're going to highlight 10 of our departing seniors. The first one, and I do apologize if I get the pronunciation wrong, but we have Amina Ahmed. Next is Pablo Esteban Villarreal. Gomathi. I'm sorry, I'm not going to attempt. Next one is Kayla Liu. Followed by Lucas Liu. Paige Williams. Rachel Genova. Simone Nowak. Sungi Park. Last but not least is Tanner Slavin. So thank you very much to these seniors for contributing to our community. So the next 2 awards are going to go to 2 YAB members that have joined us tonight, Angelica and Lucas. Would you please come on up here? Brian, I think you have something for them, right? Okay, so first we have Angelica. She had the top volunteer hours for the year, 146 volunteer hours. Just amazing. Yeah, I'll get a picture in a second. I'll take a picture in just a second. You're fine just right now. And then second, volunteer of the year is Lucas Liu. Lucas also had over 100 hours, 139 to be exact. But he was awarded this based on the board and showed up to every single meeting with the MAB. It's just amazing. Thank you. So I just want to ask you a quick question, Angelica. How were you able to volunteer so much?
I'm not sure, really, to be honest. We're at the food bank most weeks that we can every Thursday and just trying to help out as much as we can.
So what was your favorite event this year?
Probably Trunk or Treat. That was really fun.
Thank you. And Lucas, what was your favorite aspect of being on the Youth Advisory Board?
Being able to interact with the community. I think as this kind of program is great for the youth to kind of show some leadership and show some connection to the community. And I think that's really great to inspire the next group of people who are the young people who are going to be changing a lot of the world, this community around us. So it's really great.
I think that's why he got this award right there. Yeah, why don't we have all council come out? I'll get a photo. Why don't you guys come over here, which I'll be over here. So just like that, perfect. Yeah, you guys get behind. No, just like right here. Right. Oh, it's fine, whatever. Yep. Scoot down a little bit more.
Should we snuggle up?
Nope, you're perfect. This is great. All right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief Martin, which one of you is taking the next item?
I'll let you take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm very privileged to introduce Program Manager Ashley Dawson from Lead of Snohomish County. Lead of Snohomish County is law enforcement assisted diversion. This is a program that helps with getting resources, social services out to the community. And I believe it might be also assist us with our camping in public places ordinance that we're going to be looking towards. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce Ashley.
Hi, thank you for having me. I have a PowerPoint too to share with you. Perfect, thank you. You can go to the next slide. So LEAD stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. Our program started almost 2 years ago, back when we were Linwood and Everett police departments were approached by the Snohomish County Prosecuting Attorney's Office saying, hey, we've got the opportunity to apply for this grant. Let's bring this program over to Snohomish County. And we were very excited. I was a social worker with the Linwood Police Department at the time and regularly working with people who were cycling through the criminal justice system, but struggling to address some of their underlying issues. And while I was able to support people, so many of their needs were time-intensive needs that we needed some more help to work through. So we applied for a grant with the Washington Healthcare Authority, and we started the LEAD program in Snohomish County, first serving Everett and Linwood Police Departments. And now that we've seen some success, we are excited to expand our program across the county, including in Mill Creek, we hope. So the program addresses two things. One, public safety. So recognizing that some of the crimes that people are committing because of underlying behavioral health issues, a lot of people call them crimes of survival. So we might see that people are shoplifting, stealing from businesses, sleeping in doorways, trespassing, things that tend to be related to maybe their homelessness or the situation they're in, but also none of them are victimless crimes. So this program takes into account that something's going on. Police are regularly dealing with low-level offenders, businesses and the community are affected, but then also we need to bring some kind of human services issue to the table to address what's going on so that we can get to a point of change. I'll go to the next slide. So like I said, our program started with a grant from the Washington Healthcare Authority. We now have expanded. We have a grant from the North Sound Behavioral Health Administration that will allow us to expand our funding with people with lived experience. So we can add some people who can speak exactly to some of the experiences that people are going through, which is really exciting to add that element into our work. It's really important that we have everything from peer counselors to people with degrees in social work who can kind of address whatever's going on for a person and meet them where they are. So we have that. We received another grant from the Healthcare Authority. And then we also received a Bureau of Justice Assistance grant that is a 3-year grant that, again, allows us to expand our program. So we're pretty excited about this new possibility of growing throughout the county. The next slide. So the key components of the LEAD program, first is harm reduction. And what that means for us is that we help a person to recognize the harm that they're doing to themselves and the community around them. And then we meet someone where they are in their lives. What we've learned over the years in this work is that if we just come out and say to a person, it's time to change your life today, we're not going to get anywhere with them. We have to recognize where they are, and then we support them in kind of the journey and what that looks like. Still recognizing, like I said, that maybe crimes that they're committing are not victimless crimes, that people are affected by what's going on. So we have to look at things as a whole package. And for that too, if we are working with people where substance use disorder is a major part of what's going on, then the program doesn't come in and say, okay, today you have to stop using, but instead, what do you want for yourself? How could this be affecting that? And how can we get somewhere, to a better place, to something like treatment? But first, what needs to be handled? What's at the root of why you're using? Kind of really digging into things for people. And then also this program is voluntary. So engagement and accountability are essential factors. Again, we can't just come in and say, you need to change your life today and then expect that it's going to happen. Instead, the program works with people step by step to kind of say, what do you want for you? What's your story? What has happened to you? And how can we support you in getting through those next steps by walking side by side? And then funding. Like I said, this is a well-funded program. So when we have people in the LEAD program, if there's any sort of financial barrier that gets in the way of those goals that they've set for themselves, then our program can help take care of that. So that means, if a person needs an ID card or they need transportation to treatment or other services, we can address those things with funding in the program, which again, in a social services program is pretty exciting because so many of us run on very small budgets, and LEAD is able to fund these things. So if a person is engaged and actively working on next steps, then we don't want funding to ever be a barrier. That said, the program does not come in and just say, hey, you want all of these things? Okay, we'll give them to you. Instead, we say, okay, if you're actively engaged in the program and taking care of this thing would help with your goals and help you to work towards next steps, then we can do that. Next slide. So when we talk to different agencies about why it makes sense to implement LEAD, the big one again is bringing a human services solution to mitigate some of the issues that might be driving someone's underlying criminal behavior. So this can engage people in the process of reaching self-sustainability, again, with the goal that LEAD's right there to walk alongside someone, but eventually they won't need the LEAD program anymore because they've gotten to a stable place, but there's something that has stood in the way. So we are not a program that just shows up and hands out a list of resources and says, good luck navigating this list. Instead, we're working on it together, and that's where we start to see major change. The other big thing is that the program should result in less law enforcement contact. And with that, the idea is that officers aren't spending as much time on low-level crimes. And then also cities aren't spending as much time booking someone into jail and all of the extra costs that come with that. So in the long run, we hope it saves time and money. We're certainly seeing that. And then also reducing recidivism, that we're not seeing the same people arrested over and over, that something has led to a long-term change. And again, we're starting to see that in Linwood and Everett, where we've rolled out the program. We have many people who have been chronically homeless for 15 to 20 years and struggled with substance use and mental illnesses and are now in housing and are staying in housing. That's one of our big goals too, is that we're not just putting a roof over someone's head, but we've tackled all the other issues to help them stay in their housing too. And that has made a big difference. Next slide. So there's two types of referral methods. Because this is a law enforcement assisted diversion program, it works within the police department. So that's our main referral source. Officers have two ways of referring someone to the program. The first one is pre-booking. So that happens at the time of the arrest. The officer can say, okay, you're committing a low-level misdemeanor. And instead of booking you in jail for this crime, it's clear that something else is going on. I can offer you this program if you're interested. And a case manager will come out right now, respond to the officer in the field for a warm handoff, and start that relationship and see if that can help someone. If someone decides to do that, Then they have 14 days to make contact with the team to kind of follow through on the paperwork process. And then the agreement is that the charge would not be filed if they enter into the LEAD program. And then the other type of referral is just called a social contact. So that means an officer doesn't have to wait for someone to commit a crime. Instead, it can be a frequent flyer, someone that they see often, they know is in need of help. A church calls, a business calls, someone calls and says there's someone here that needs help. An officer can say, hey, I've got this program. If you meet the criteria, I can make a referral. And again, LEAD staff will come out and meet with you and get started. So both of those allow for an officer to have that tool when they need it. And an officer isn't expected to be the one that is the social worker offering services, making some kind of assessment on what someone needs. They can pass that off to someone else who is trained to handle it. Next slide. So like I said, the response is a warm handoff. That's typically our goal, especially for the population that we're serving, because so often people who might need the LEAD program don't have a regularly working cell phone. They don't have minutes on their phone. They're not sleeping in the same place every night. And so we want to have engagement right away if that's possible. That's why our program is open every single day from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And our office is in South Everett. So the goal and the promise is that we will have someone meet the officer within 30 minutes or less. And that time is really important to us. In fact, if we move this way and need to add more office space to be able to respond quickly, we do that. As we're looking at kind of how our program grows, we'll grow our office space too, so that any agency we work with, response time would never be more than 30 minutes. And every officer that we've talked to in Everett and Linwood, this time makes a huge difference. We want officers to be able to move on to the next call. So that 30-minute response time is there. If for some reason an officer wants to make a referral when the LEAD office isn't open, then they would just send the referral over, include as much information as possible about how to contact the person, and then our staff would work quickly to look for the person the next day. And that's a huge part of the work too, is outreach-based work. So while we have an office that a person could come to if they're interested, LEAD staff are driving around looking for people, going to the meal sites, food banks, wherever we know that people tend to be, LEAD would be looking for them. And then also the officer referral would ideally include any information about how to contact the person. And that can be Facebook Messenger, family members, whatever it takes. Our staff are willing to try any attempt of contact. And then if it's a pre-booking referral, we'll spend those 14 days really trying to help engage a person. If it's a social contact referral, same thing goes. Staff will work very hard. We encourage the participant to engage as well. In fact, a person can stay in the LEAD program as long as they need to. If at any time there's more than 30 days of no contact, then we just move a person to inactive status, and that allows LEAD staff to work with other people in the program who are ready, but at any time a person can re-engage. That just gives the opportunity for them the ball's in their court to say, okay, I'm ready. I'd like to reach back out. And that oftentimes is when we see the most success too. We plant the idea of LEAD, we offer support, we explain it, and then the person decides if they're ready then, or they can reach back out when they are. And LEAD's available to pick up where we left off or to start that relationship. And again, if a person doesn't follow through with the program and they were diverted on a pre-booking referral for those low-level misdemeanors, then we would let the officer know and they could go ahead and forward the charges. So it mixes a little bit of everything together for this program. That's kind of the basics. And so we contract with Evergreen Recovery Centers for our case management. And then the grant is funneled through the Snohomish County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. We have 9 staff right now with the budget to continue to hire more as we grow. So we're really excited about the possibility of coming this way and offering just another tool for officers and for the community to feel like things are being addressed in a way that makes sense for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Questions? Councilmember Steckler? I saw you.
Well, I
reach
didn't even get a chance to turn my little button on. Ashley, thank you. That was very informative. I'm kind of the slow one here on the council, so I do have a couple of questions. First of all, I do understand this is a service that you provide to the officers. Do you also provide it to general public if they see somebody so they can inform your office? Is that correct?
That's a good question. So we are starting out as the true law enforcement assisted diversion, but as we expand, we're looking at ways to open up to the community. The reason that we've been slow to that is that we want to be really intentional about our work and that we take a referral from someone who truly would qualify for the program. So as we expand to the community, a person would still need to have some sort of law enforcement contact in order to qualify for LEAD, because we want to keep true to that law enforcement assisted diversion. And that's how our grants are funded too. But we recognize that we need to open up to community as well. So we're just going to be intentional about how we spread the word about that. But that is our goal. Yeah.
So the public shouldn't start out right away with looking up your phone number and calling you right away when you see somebody.
Not yet. Yep.
It needs to go through law enforcement.
Yep.
But this is a service you're offering the Mill Creek Police Department as of right now.
Yes.
And what services do you provide these individuals? I mean, it sounds like behavioral health services, but I'm kind of curious specifically, what are you offering them? Is it housing? Is it?
The majority of what's offered is more so it's a navigation. So people are accessing everything from food to housing to employment to social security benefits. And while LEAD has some funding to support people with those things, it's more so to help people access all the programs that already exist to provide those things, but are so difficult to navigate. So for example, in Snohomish County, the waiting list is 2,000 people long for low-income housing, and they will only get to a few people each year. If a person's name pops up for housing, they're expected to call and check in right away. Again, if we're talking about a population who doesn't have a working phone, that person, they're going to be missed. And so with a LEAD case manager, they have someone who's regularly checking in with the housing office, who regularly checks in with their client, can say, hey, your name popped up today. I'm going to take you over for the appointment so that you can complete your intake and you might get housing. So it's more that sort of thing of navigating the resources. They're going to help people get to court to handle their issues instead of having warrants for failure to appear for court hearings. We have great connections with different housing providers. So if a person is ready and into housing, then LEAD can pay for the first few months of rent while that person works on about every other thing. Substance use, getting people into treatment quickly, those kinds of things. So it's unfortunately, we don't have a magic wand, but we're able to navigate the system much
It's like
easier.
an assistance coach to help them.
That's what people have. Assistance coach, personal assistant. We've had all kinds of different words used to describe it, but the goal is self-sufficiency. So we're sort of teaching a person those steps along the way. So eventually they're navigating all those things by themselves.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
I've always supported diversion. I like the idea of you do get the first pitch is not a called strike, right? You have an opportunity. One of the things I worry about with really any program is oversight. So give you a situation. Guy goes into Rite Aid, rips him off, steals a bunch of stuff. Officers come out. Now they're holding him, right? Now they're holding him. We give you guys a ring. Guys come out half hour later, make the contact. What's the handoff look like? And how is the public assured that taking him to jail at that moment, then offering him diversion, right? As opposed to maybe giving him to you at that time where he's able to keep reoffending until he's caught again. So I think I like the mission. I just would like to see the components of oversight.
Yep, that's a fair question for sure. So the LEAD program does not excuse all future arrests. It's just the one charge that they're diverted upon. So there may be people who reoffend and are arrested while they're in the program. And that's just the nature of working through all of this. If a person's arrested again, then actually our hope and agreement is that an officer would call and say, hey, I have to take Jerry to the jail today. He'll be there. And then our staff will go there and meet with them, work through what's next, going to court, saying, hey, we need to try this again. Why did it not work this time? What caused you to steal again, and kind of address those things. but it doesn't excuse all crimes. And we put the discretion on the officer too. So they might decide that enough is enough. And in this moment, they do need to be arrested. Or the owner of Rite Aid says, I'm not willing to not be the victim in this case. This guy has stolen from me too many times. So that's okay too. But that's a fair question. We don't just forget everything that's going on.
Good, thank you. And so you talked about you had a good success rate with recidivism. Do you have numbers?
I didn't bring numbers with me today, but that's one of the things that we do when we work with police departments. We request monthly kind of updates and reports on how many charges did this person have before, or how many interactions with law enforcement before, and what are they now. We meet every 2 weeks with officers who can kind of report on reduced contact in the moment as well, but we can certainly provide data for sure.
I like the idea of tools in the belt. So the last question I have is this 100% funded, or will there be a cost down the road for the cities and counties or other agencies?
Yeah, it's 100% funded. We don't intend to push any costs down to cities or agencies or anything like that. We continue to pursue grant funding. Started out with 1.6 and now we're at 3.5. So it only continues to look good for us.
That's good. Thank you so much. Thanks for thinking outside the box. Thank you.
Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I just have a question about that 14-day period.
Mhm.
So you make contact, they have 14 days to get with the program. If they don't in that 14 days, do you then contact the police department that had originally referred them, and the ball kind of goes back in their court to follow up?
Yes, that's exactly what happens. We reach back out to the referring officer, and in our training for the police department, we go through a process of how the officer would still write a report as if they might file the charges. So the officer has everything they need and ready if the person did not follow through. Yep. So we let them know.
Councilmember Duque.
As I have my list of questions, I realized most of them have been answered. So it's nice to know that we were thinking along those things. And actually, you alluded to one of my first question was, what's the expectation for our officers in terms of, they have so much already on their plate. You mentioned training. That was my question, is the training information for the police department. What's the kind of support they get so that they feel like this is not something else that's added upon them, but something that's beneficial. So that was one. And then I asked about the diversion and then the non-compliance and benchmarks. So I'm assuming, there's the website and all that. And the data points that Councilmember Cavallari was talking about. I'm always very interested in data when it comes to benchmarks. So is it best to follow up with you on if we have questions, or go to the sites that you recommend? Because I'm assuming because of your grant funding, you have to provide benchmarks. So it should be available that way, right?
Yes. I'll answer that question first. The benchmarks. So it's really important to look at this work and look at how challenging it is. And so we don't set any sort of major goal of we need to have 20 people housed by this date or anything like that. Instead, we show connections to services and then follow through with services. So we're working to generate our first year report, and any agency we work with, we definitely would share that. In fact, it would be a available resource to anyone for sure. So we haven't published anything yet, but we share those. One of the things that we have is a quarterly stakeholder meeting, and our hope that by partnering with Mill Creek, we would have a couple community leaders attend our stakeholder meeting too. That would be a great place that we would share our updates, and then hopefully that person would bring them back to council. And then the training. So we have worked really hard to create a short training that is done during briefings or during roll call, meaning the goal is 30 minutes. The possibility that an officer would have to leave for a call is very real. So we make it a short training. We do it during roll call or briefing so that officers can ask questions too. And so that we can say, does this referral form make sense to you? Is it too long? Is this working? Is it not working? And over the last year and a half, we've been able to adapt it specifically for officers. We do the same in Mill Creek at the training to make sure that it really fits an officer's time, knowing that there's not much time. So Our referral form is a web-based link that most officers just have saved on the computer in the car. They could quickly fill it out then. If for some reason they don't have their computer, they don't have the link's not working, the case manager will come out with the form and help them right then and there. So we try to do as much as we can.
Can't take him anywhere. Trying to bust out. Pardon the interruption.
What's that commercial? Those moments, got to get away.
That's so true.
Thank you, Matthew.
There you go.
Councilmember Duque, was that the end of your questions?
Did that help? Okay.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for sharing about your program and the success that you've been having. In the last year or so, we've seen a move towards decriminalizing a lot of things and sort of the premise being we don't want these nonviolent folks in jail and prison, blah, 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 which in principle, I sort of agree with. But if we remove the ability for law enforcement to charge them for these smaller crimes, is that having an impact on your interacting with them? And what is it?
That's a good question. It definitely has changed the type of referral that we receive. So we see fewer pre-booking referrals at the time of arrest because there's fewer crimes that officers are able to arrest upon.
Nobody open a door. Nobody open a door.
Okay, I'll keep going until it happens again. So specifically like with the Blake decision where possession of drugs has that crime is no longer one that officers are arresting on, they still in the moment could make a lead referral because we have that social contact option. So right now we're seeing about 25% of our referrals are the arrest diversion, whereas the rest of them are social contacts. We actually have found a lot of officers really like that because they don't have to wait for a crime to be committed. They can acknowledge, we have seen this guy go to Rite Aid over and over and steal things, or the same things are happening with this person. Now we finally have an option.
Any other questions, comments? Well, Ashley, thank you again for the presentation. It's very informative.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
And I think there may have been some handouts, or at least it's in your packet, my contact information. So if you think of anything, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to new business. Item F, authorize the approval of the sale of police vehicle number 410. Chief, assume?
It's been around forever.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I come before you today, and Amy was gonna add my slide deck here for the presentation. And here comes Joe. And Naomi, do you have the slide deck for us?
Chief, I didn't get that.
It's in iCompass.
We got it.
Oh. Sorry, hold on one moment.
Not the LTD, chief, not the LTD.
1988, patrol officer Bob Crannell gave a young Mark Bond a ride along on the mean streets of Mill Creek in the Ford LTD.
Yes.
I understand. And we'll get to this in a minute here. We have a lot of concerns with the Ford LTD as well with Public Works Vehicle number 7.
He had a lot of concerns with it then.
And, this is a vehicle that was actually donated to the city. And it was a great opportunity for us to move forward with it. Unfortunately, and we'll just kind of go offhand here for a little bit, but the issue is the safe operation of that vehicle and the cost to repair that vehicle to a point where we could actually get it from location to location. So thank you, Naimo, for bringing that up. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide.
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
So per municipal code 3.44, I'm coming to City Council today asking for approval for the city manager to authorize the sale surplus of vehicles number 410 and a Public Works vehicle number 7. This is the 1985 Ford LTD that we currently have marked out as a historical vehicle for the city department. It has been great to have it at National Night Out. It's been great to have it at the festival. Unfortunately, the vehicle is very difficult to get from location to location. The Jeep Cherokee is a former patrol vehicle with the city. It was purchased in, I want to say 1998. And it currently has over 100,000 miles on it. It's been used as the CSO vehicle. Our community services officer drove that vehicle. It's been transferred over to Public Works, and now it's back in the fleet as the police department. We were utilizing it as a volunteer vehicle. But right now these vehicles are ready for surplus and no longer of use to the city. Next slide, please. So like I said, vehicle 410 for nearly 6 years, we've used that vehicle as a historical vehicle at the festival and those types of things. It was a great idea from former Chief Elwin. It was a lot of fun to have. It was fun to drive. But we've had problems keeping the vehicle running. We'll start it. It won't continue to run. I've tried to get service done at a reasonable rate. Trying to get a 1985 Ford LTD maintenance schedule is difficult, to say the least. And even to get parts for this vehicle is difficult as well. So although it's been a lot of fun, it also has a significant impact on the maintenance budget for the department. Next slide. The vehicle is estimated value of about $550 to $1,150. So per the ordinance, we're here to ask for approval from the council for surplus of that vehicle. And next slide. And again, Public Works vehicle number 7 is what it's actually labeled as in our equipment roster, but it's actually in the police fleet. This is that 1998 Jeep Cherokee. I actually drove it in 2003 when I first became a police officer with the city of Mill Creek from time to time. However, it was then moved to our community service officer's position, and she drove that vehicle for some time. And then it finally was moved over to Public Works, where I think that they were using it for some surface water work and checking on some of the storm drains and things of that nature. Eventually, that vehicle was replaced by another Public Works vehicle and transferred back over to the police department so we could utilize it for volunteer services from our volunteer patrol. That being said, we now have the ability to move forward and have volunteer patrol utilize another vehicle. So this vehicle has now become a little bit obsolete. Again, maintenance is an issue. If you were to look at these two vehicles, normally I would have slide photos for you, but they're in the kind of condition that I was wanting to hold off on that. If we can go to the next slide. So again, the minimum estimate on this vehicle, and I shouldn't say minimum, it's more of an approximate value on this vehicle, is $4,500. Next slide. So there is some expense to these vehicles for us to sell them. We do have some emergency equipment that's currently in the vehicles that we would want to remove before we were to sell them. The vehicles are equipped, especially 410 is equipped with a police light bar that has red and blue lights, has a siren on it. So there's some radio equipment in there. So we want to make sure we removed all that equipment. So we estimate that cost to be about $2,000. If no bids are available or received, the city manager may direct the sale or disposition of such surplus property under the procedures adopting according to MC 344020. With that, I would ask that the council make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing city manager to approve the sale of the police vehicles via auction by utilizing James G. Murphy Company.
Questions for Chief?
Mayor, do we have a resolution number?
We do. That would be 2022-642.
Then Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2022-642 to adopt this resolution authorizing the city manager to approve the sale of police vehicle number 410, a 1985 Ford LTD, and Public Works vehicle PW-7, a 1998 Jeep Cherokee by live auction using James G. Murphy Company. Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution, the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, consent agenda is light tonight. Item G, council meeting minutes of May 24th, 2022. Can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved 7-0. Reports. I got 3 quick items. Hart, I will not spend a lot of time on. It seemed that the group had a very low biorhythm last Thursday night, and so there wasn't much substantive discussion. It was more in the course of review. I think there's going to be 5 or 6 more meetings over the next 6 to 12 months, so there'll be more to report coming up. Second item, I want to give thanks to Martin and Chief White for setting up my ride along last night. I got to spend 2 hours with Officer Roy. It was very enlightening, informative. Got a new appreciation for what our officers do on a daily basis to protect us. And I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with Officer Roy. Great addition to the staff, and hopefully we have some more to come. And then the third item is it is shaping up as if tonight's meeting is going to be relatively short. Next week's will not be. So just be prepared. I think in your inbox, you have a little bit of light reading to do over the next 7 days. So be prepared for a longer meeting next week. With that, Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a report tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
I just have a couple things to report. First, I'd like to thank everyone for the Memorial Day service. Thank you to Scott and Jody. And all the volunteers who put it together. It was really great to be back and have the memorial service, and everyone really appreciated it, and it was really tasteful and well done. The next thing I need to report on is there's a lot of changes going on at the health department. This week, we had a resolution brought forward to us from the executive wanting to pull in the health department underneath the executive's office, and therefore be another department underneath the county. That resolution did pass. I asked some questions that were important for us, just so you know. I wanted to check and make sure that it's not going to affect our city budgets, because I wasn't sure with it being moved underneath the county, how that was going to affect the way it's funded, because now we are able to offer funds on a volunteer basis. And they said it's not going to change the way our budgets. We're not going to have to send money in. So that's not going to be a problem. I also checked there are some questions regarding the property that the building that they bought originally. And that will have to be divided up amongst the cities who helped put into that in the first place. So, and I also recommended that there be a transition team that's able to look at things and make sure that nothing gets missed, and that everything is handled as it transitions over. So thought this was really important. Just wanted to report that back and let all of you know that that's in the works. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond, any report tonight?
Not so much a report, but something to be shared. So as I said, 88, did a ride along, fell in love with the idea of being a police officer, tested with the city of Mill Creek, was hired in 1990, had a wonderful time here, fell in love with Mill Creek. 2001, went to the sheriff's office and moved my family into Mill Creek. And in 03, had the chance to see if I could still have a seat at the table and be a part of the growing community, and ran for office. And I won. So who knew? And have had 5 elections since. And I think at 18 years this year, I passed Terry Ryan, who had 17 years and may have served the longest. But sadly, I'm not going to be able to finish this term. My chapter and time in Mill Creek is coming to an end. I am going to be taking possession of my new home in Sultan on the 29th, and I'm going to be moving out of my Mill Creek address and to Sultan on July 1st and 2nd. So I'm super, super thankful to have had this wonderful opportunity, to the voters in Mill Creek who gave me a chance to serve up here over these a lot more years than I thought were going to be, but have all been awesome. I'm very, very thankful and humble. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to be up here and to serve with you all and the number of council members from before. And I feel bad for you for giving you extra work to do, as you already have a very full plate. But we have a city filled with wonderful people who are probably excited about an opportunity to come and serve on this council. And I encourage them to get that resume out, start polishing up, and get ready to put in and have a chance to serve for a super wonderful city with an amazing staff. I love our staff and the work you guys do, our officers, Public Works. I have a new appreciation for planning and the city side folks and the hard work you do as I see it from my seat in Sultan and the inside there. And I appreciate you all very much. And so, yeah, this chapter's coming to an end and a new chapter is going to be written.
There will be more to be said in the weeks ahead, so we won't spend a lot of time today unless people want to. But excited for you for your future. Very sad for our city. We miss working with you, but 18 years is a long time. So congratulations. Councilmember Steckler.
Well, that's a tough report to follow. I can't even think what I was going to say. Mark, I've been humbled to work with you. I'm sorry to see you go. I'm so very, very happy for you though, because I know how much you wanted to purchase your home. And so that I'm very, very happy for you. And I'm very, very grateful as a citizen for all that you've done for our city over 18 years. Thank you so very, very much as a citizen. Thank you very much. I have nothing more to say that could stand up to that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Cavallari.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll save my sappy goodbye for his last meeting, but I will, again, miss you when you're gone for sure. But I did want to just let us recognize, as we did earlier, the Youth Advisory Board and the work that they do, again, as young volunteers of our city, the next generation. It's so exciting. I mean, I work closely with them sometimes with Parks and Rec Board, and they're just such amazing people. And to hear they're doing over 100 hours of volunteer, and when you don't see them here, like they said, you see them at the school bank, you see them at the senior living facilities, you see them at all of our events. They are everywhere. They are like the cement between the bricks that hold the building together, and they just don't get, I mean, they did tonight, but they normally don't get the recognition they really deserve. And I'm very excited at the future of Mill Creek with such fantastic young people that really, really love their city, and we love them. Thank you.
Councilmember Allison, any report tonight?
No report other than just a big thank you to Mark Bond, and he's quite the councilman. So appreciate it.
Councilmember Duque.
I do with the same. I'm just shocked. So I had the so I will skip forward. I wanted to say thank you for everyone who put together the Memorial Day event. It was fantastic. It was beautiful. Everyone has said that, but it truly was such a beautiful thing for our city to have. I also had the pleasure of attending the Parks and Recreation Board meeting for this month. Councilmember Cavallari let me go, and I always appreciate it because I love attending Parks and Recreation Board meetings. At the meeting, we actually got to hear from the Mill Creek Youth Advisory Board about a recap of what they did. A big shout out to Scott and Jody, of course, for their amazing work with them and all the hours that they've done. And Ryan, who was the liaison and the photojournalist, I believe he's going to be co-president this coming year. So that's huge. And we got to meet the new photojournalist and just a fantastic youth. So if you get the opportunity to meet anyone, please do. I was also excited to hear about the recreation pickleball classes and just wanted to do a special shout out here because that was also posted on Facebook today. Seeing the city events calendar as a reminder, Party in the Parks are coming. If you can, please attend. One, just so that, if people have questions about what city council does, I think that's very valuable for us to be there, to be able to answer those questions, to help people, but also, encouraging, I believe Parks and Recreation Board members will be in attendance and potentially other boards. And so it's nice if we can be there. I'll always be chasing my kids around at those events because that's generally what I do. And then they have a few projects that are coming up, but a big shout out to the park survey, the survey that's being sent out or that has been sent out I received my Mill Creek Living magazine that had the section from the city. I thought it looked fantastic within everything. There was actually a really good spread, not from the city, but for Fred Philbrook. So I thought that was really well done. But as a reminder for everyone to make sure to share the survey with everyone and anyone you know. You do not have to be a Mill Creek resident to do so. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I turn over to Martin, just a quick comment on timing in response to Mark's news. We already have a very full plate over the next 2 months. The resignation becoming effective beginning of July, am I correct?
I will be in my residence in Mill Creek till
Okay.
the 2nd of July.
Okay,
So-
and then with our August recess, Mayor Pro Tem and I will discuss this with Martin and come back for discussion next week. But my initial thought is we may have an extended application process, deal with that through July, give people an opportunity to apply, and then deal with interviews and selection the first meeting or two after we get back in September. Unless, I will throw it out there, I guess we can discuss next week, unless there's a desire to have some meetings in August and deal with this in August. But give that some thought between now and next week. We'll discuss it a little further. Okay. City Manager, turn it over to you for your reports.
Thank you, Mayor. The report we have a number of reports across from me, Public Works, and I'll start off with the first one. One of the key priorities for the city of Mill Creek right now, and I presented it last week, is focusing on employment, including staffing, salaries and benefits, and wellness of our employees. Tonight we are here to report, HR manager report on the progress we've made on one component of that, which is finding some parity and competing salaries across the region to ensure that we bring our employees up to competitive salaries and ensuring that they get the wages that comparable to the work they do. So now I'll hand it over to Debbie Mills, our HR manager, to give you an update on where we are with our progress on our salary survey.
So good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm just going to give you a brief update. I have been working on the salary survey for both our non-represented and our AFSCME represented employees. I've identified our comparable cities and they will be including some of our neighboring cities. I've reviewed them with Cabot Dow as well. I think it's going to be a really good group of cities. And of course, it's important not only for the recruitment, I think, of new employees, but also for the retention of the excellent employees that we currently have. And so what I'm doing too is we're using the current 2022 salary information from the cities that I've identified. So I'm going out and gathering it from contacting my other HR colleagues so that we have the most current, because the AWC salary survey data won't be out for a couple of months. So doing that. And then also some of our positions here that we have are, I'll just say kind of unique to the city as far as they're not what your typical benchmark is, like a police chief is a police chief, but some of our other positions, I want to make sure we have a really good match. So I'm also out gathering that information as well. So still in the gathering of the information, but once that's done, then we'll be moving on to the next phase. It's moving along.
Without taking questions.
Any questions? Okay. No. Please proceed.
That's my only update, and I'll hand it over to our Public Works Supervisor, Matthew Combs.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, everyone. I've got a quick one for you tonight. It should only take about 30 to 45 minutes.
Really shortened it.
So this will be really quick. Just wanted to cover and kind of show you guys what we've been doing with the new equipment that we've been able to buy. So our switch and go, I think most of you have already known, or I presented this before, but some of you weren't here when that happened. So PW14 is our new switch and go truck. I wanted to happily announce that we've received everything for that truck that we've ordered and paid for. So that would be the arborist box, the dump body, the new sander, which is a 5-yard sander over the 2-yard sander that we've been using. And then, of course, 2 new plows for PW14 and PW5. PW5 is the truck that we've been using to plow for years. Putting our new equipment to work. This is my new favorite photo. PW14, our new truck. And thanks to you guys, our John Deere 50 mini excavator and trailer, which I'm happy to report, we came in probably 8 to 10 grand less than what I was actually asking you for. So score.
Good job.
The bottom photo shows that was our first job up on 3rd Avenue, which I'm going to get into here right now real quick. Very happy to report that that project went really well. Ultimately, what we found was nothing super significant. It was an easy one-day fix. We did this in-house, our crew, our engineers, 100%, our equipment, nothing rented. And this is a huge win for us. Identified a sinkhole, cut it out, dug up the road, identified the issue. Thanks to Frank, we got our own city engineer on hand, came up with a plan, used every piece of equipment that we bought, except for one bucket. Excavated the hole, backfilled it, packed it, and then, of course, paved it over with the correct patch that we require here in Mill Creek. So the key takeaways from this would be we performed this repair 100% in-house. Of course, we bought asphalt, we bought the supplies we needed. The cost savings we were into that project about $3 grand. That was an easy $6,000 to $7,000 project. Pride of work, kind of a misleading title, but pride of work for the city, for the community. I had several citizens stop and talk to me about the fact that we had bought this equipment, that we didn't have some of the junker trucks that people were seeing around. And people were very happy that we were able to do this stuff in-house. And that is a positive impact on the community. People love seeing the new trucks. They love seeing the equipment. They love seeing our guys out there doing the work, sweating, and not paying some contractor to do it for us. So the goal is to continue to do that and take advantage of our opportunity as much as possible. So with that, if nobody has any questions, that's my 30 minutes.
Councilmember Allison.
I just have one quick question. From the time that was reported and until the time you were able to resolve the problem, how much time passed?
That particular sinkhole was more than a few months, but
Okay.
when
You
that
had to wait
sinkhole
for
was
weather.
identified, the plans were already beginning to buy the excavator, the trailer, the truck, everything like that. So
Okay, great. Might not have been any quicker if you would have contracted it out.
yeah, kind of a poor example just because of the time that one sat there. But I do know that we have 3 other sinkholes around the city that we're going to be getting to here in the next month or 2.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else from staff this evening?
Yeah, one more.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you. We have one more report by our Director Todd
Yeah.
regarding the ERC status.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. It's just a quick update, just all oral. Remember last July or so, we had gotten to the point on the DRCC properties where council had worked through with Karen Reed, establishing priorities. We had some ideas for various kinds of community facilities. We did the famous felt board exercise.
Yeah,
Mike, you're muted. You
Yep.
you need to unmute again. I don't know how that happened.
Go ahead.
Okay, there you go.
Operating with my elbows. Okay, so we're back to the point where we want to pick this up again. Working with Karen Reed on establishing a new contract. She's getting to the point where she's got some time, and so she's going to help us through a contract we're going to establish here pretty quick, get started. We'll be heading into a needs analysis, a bunch of community engagement, developing a master plan. That it is going to be a large project over the next 12 to 18 months. Remember, during the course of the exercise, the work that she did last time, she met a number of landscape architects, master planning kinds of folks who were interested in this project. So we'll be going back out to them, but back out in general with an RFQ to find the folks who are well suited to do this work. The work will involve quite a bit of community and stakeholder outreach. We're going to use the work that we've already done, but we'll have to update some of that survey work. You think about when we look back at this, we had lines around various wetlands. Wetlands are notorious for changing. So we'll resurvey that. We'll be identifying some various partnerships that we've already talked about, maybe some other ones, looking at financing approaches. Fundamentally, there's a lot of frontage. If you think about it, we unfortunately own frontage on both sides of that, both on North Creek Drive and on 527. And there's a lot of stormwater to be dealt with. And so we'll work on some of those fundamental engineering things that aren't very exciting, but are going to be significant in terms of putting a project together out there. We hope in the 12 to 18 month time frame, get to a point where we've got a master plan that would be for several years worth of development, something you would choose to adopt at the conclusion of this work. So that's kind of it on the process there. Expect us to be coming to you hopefully late this month or early July and getting an RFQ out on the field, out on the street, and finding somebody to help us with that work. Funding wise, we originally put during the last budget amendment at the biennium switch, you put $200,000 in the project or in the budget for this project. We've used a small amount of that money, but since then, through the help of our state legislators, we've been awarded $200,000 in the second half of the current state biennium. So that money is usable between now and June 30th, 2023. So our objective will be to use that money principally to pay for the consultant in this master plan approach and for Karen Reed's fees. Typically, unless things are really bad down in Olympia, they are willing to continue those amounts of money that are capital budget grants into the next biennium, but that's not guaranteed. So we'll probably parcel this out to make sure we have deliverables that will line up with the June 30th date, June 30th, 2023 date, but also try to capitalize on the full amount of the money for that 12 to 18 month period of time that those consultants tell us will probably take. And with that, I think mostly just want to give you an update. We are picking this back up again and be working on it. And I'll take any questions if you've got easy ones.
Councilmember Steckler.
Mike, since we did this so long ago, and now with the announcement of Councilmember Bond leaving us and 2 new council members, would it be, I think it'd be a very good idea if you could get, when you come back to us next week, can you also kind of give us a quick update on what we concluded from that planning meeting, the felt-based idea generation that we had, because it was a long time ago. And I think it'd be a good idea to say, okay, what did we conclude from that? What were some of the outcomes before we launch a $200,000 investment against it, just to make sure we're on track? I think it'd be a good update for the two new council members, as well as just for the 4 of us that were there at that time, just to make sure we're all in agreement.
We were all here. We did it.
Were you
in the-
here? I
we
thought it
did
was
in
the
fall,
2 council members that were here for that one.
I believe.
I don't think we were here for the working sessions, but we were here when the report out was put together, I believe.
Well, either way, it's a good. We'll
Either
need
way,
a-
I'm
we'll
sorry.
need
I
a-
thought-
we'll
I
need
remember
a-
you weren't here during the work
We'll
session. I
need
didn't
a
know we had the report out
we'll need
after
a
that.
refresher before we jump back in.
Yeah, let's do a refresher. Okay, sorry about that. I do remember, I didn't know we had the workout. Thank you.
Anything else, Director Todd?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all of our reports, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to close the meeting.
Mayor, before we go to the closing, you brought up a comment before we started with the city manager's reports about having a discussion on Councilmember Bond's announcement.
Yeah.
And said maybe we could bring that up at next week's meeting, but knowing how busy next week's meeting is going to be, adding another item to it about prolonging that, maybe seeing as how this one's a very early, maybe we could have a meeting, maybe we could have a couple of comments about that timeline of discussion about that tonight.
Sure, if you have thoughts.
Well, I did. And your suggestion was, do we want to move ahead with having bringing in candidates for replacement, or do we want to wait until sometime in September? And my thought on that would be, I personally think it would be in our best interest and for the best interest of the city to move ahead on that process in July. I would recommend that with everything we've got on our plate, I think my recommendation would be one special meeting where we would have the candidates come in. It's a one-night meeting where they come and make their presentations to us and we do the vote. The reason I like that is that during the month of August, a new council member needs a lot of training, and it would be nice if they could take that time with the city to do their training. That way, the new council member would be ready to hit the ground running in the month of September, rather than going through the process of bringing somebody on in September and then getting them trained, and maybe they feel comfortable and get their feet under them in the month of October. I think we've got a lot going on, a lot of new things going, and so I would respectfully request that we go ahead with the replacement for Councilmember Bond and have the interviews in July. But if our meetings are too busy, I would request that we have one special session, or maybe instead of taking the third Tuesday off, make that our interview Tuesday in the month of July, so that we can actually bring the candidates in and let them make their presentations and get the process done in July, so that we can allow them that month of August when we're not meeting to do their training.
Those are fair comments, but the countervailing point of that is July tends to be a big vacation month, and I don't want to preclude candidates who have family vacations already planned from putting their name in consideration because they're going to be unavailable to trying to get a process done in July. So let us look at the calendar. We have a lot to do. I guess I'll ask, the off week in July would be the 19th. Is that even an option?
It is for me. My 12-year-old decided to take summer school math, so.
Decided.
If the 19th is not an option because the off week, because people already planned vacation, we could do an extra meeting 1 week.
Mayor, I have some questions.
Yeah.
My question regarding the process is, normally we allow a certain amount of weeks for people to, from the time it's posted, for us to get applicants in. And I don't remember if that was 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I'd be curious to know what our past practice, I think we need to know what our past practices are for applicants to have the time to get their applications in as well. I guess I'm curious, and I don't know if the city attorney needs to answer. I'm curious if Councilmember Bond is here until July, do we need to wait till he's gone before? I feel like we have some unanswered questions on when we can actually start posting, depending on when his last day is and things like that, that I have questions about. That's all.
Those are good questions. I'd hope that we can advertise, but we just couldn't select till he is gone. But let us take, any other comments?
So-
Councilmember Duque?
I'm,
Then I'll get to you. Councilmember Duque, then.
I wanted to agree with Councilmember Seckler. As someone who the election was certified and then we had our meeting that night and I still was in a weird kind of, I think it would be helpful to move through this process to allow the council member to be able to look at all the things you're supposed to research and just learn up on in September and have those meetings or in August and then start in September. So I am happy with getting the process moving forward based off of everyone's kind of requirements. I did also, I had a note for myself to ask. Sometimes we have these really long meeting. Fantastic that, we do, there's lots of things, but I'm always curious about why don't we end up splitting some of it to be that 1/3 Tuesday that doesn't, where we don't have a meeting so that we're not going so late. And so when I heard this news, that's what I thought about also for July, because I wonder if people were available. So too long-winded just to say, yep.
Okay. Is a special meeting in early August, first 2 weeks in August an option? No?
Not for me.
Okay.
I leave on the 7th and I don't get back until the 20th.
Okay, well, let us look at the calendar and bring back to you maybe two options, an expedited option and a non-expedited option. We can discuss it and make some decisions next week.
My recommendation would be July, because it sounds like people are still planning on being here in July.
We heard you.
Yeah.
So let us
Sounds
look
like
at the
vacation
calendar.
times get after that.
We've got a lot on the agenda. So the 19th of July is or is not an option for people?
It's not an option for me. I won't be here.
Okay, because this is important. We'd have to have all 6 of us here if we had a special meeting. So.
Right.
Okay. With that, now we will move to close out the meeting with audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council before? When once, twice. Okay, with that, we'll be adjourned at 7:18 and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everyone.